fan yourself.
Yeah. I found this big leaf on the way over here. Isn't it beautiful? Is it a poplar?
It's kind of shaped like one, but it's awful big.
I know. I think they're always big.
Well, you ain't that big.
It was just laying there. I find them every year and I take them, but if you take it inside, it quickly draws up into one like this, like all the rest. It's pretty though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of like you.
Oh, thanks, Dad. So lots of people have asked for me and Matt to kind of tell how we met. Well, it seems kind of silly to us that anybody be interested in it, but I guess people are, and we're gonna try to tell our story as it is.
Pray for me.
So how old were we? Do you remember that? I think I was 21 maybe.
No.
Was I being 21?
I was 20. I was either 21 and you were 20, or I was 22 and you was 21, something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, we can't remember that part. But so I lived here in Brasstown, where I live now. I mean, where we live now. But I had cousins who lived in Haywood County, and they both worked for Champion International, which was the paper company there. Paper company's still there. It's just named something else. What is it now? I don't know.
Evergreen.
Evergreen maybe. Or something. But in those days when Champion owned it, they also owned Lake Logan, which is, explain, Matt. It
was just a lake, a kind of a resort type place where they would fly in the executives and give them a place to fish, and
they had their meetings there.
They had meetings and stuff there, yeah.
While they were there, they could also, you have to do something fun when you're having meetings and things like that. So there was the lake, they could fish on the lake, had a driving range, and had a boojum cave that they could go to in between their meetings. So anyway, two of my cousins worked at the lake there in the boathouse, and they needed another person to work. So they got me to come, and I didn't have a job, or I don't remember if I had a job or whatever. But anyway, I went, and that was my job. And it was the type of work where you worked from like maybe April to October. It was seasonal, and then through the winter you drew unemployment. And it was a really good job. I was too young at the time to know it, but I made good money. It was beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? One of the prettiest places ever. And if people come to fish, then I had to work. But if nobody come to fish, I didn't have to do anything. I could read a book, I could look out the window, we could talk and laugh and cut up. So it was really, you could eat there of course they had lodging and a kitchen. Anyway, it was a really good job. But at the time, I complained about everything. That was youth, wasted on my youth. But the best thing about then is that I met Matt. So one of my cousins, she was married to a man at that time who was friends with Matt's dad. Right, and Matt too, I guess. And how long had you known him? Like,
I don't know. Daddy had known him for several years because he worked with him.
Yeah.
I hadn't known him as long, but I'd known him a while.
So they decided that they would fix me and Matt up. So we went on a blind date, and that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you remember your pickup line that you used on me that first night that we went out? Of course, we went with them. That we were all together. No. So Matt told me that first night that it was in the summer, and he told me that the sun must shine a whole lot where I lived because I had a pretty tan. Yeah.
I was pretty slick.
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. Oh yeah, I was madly in love. From the beginning, Matt was like the kind of person that I'd always dreamed about because we had so many interests. We had just so many of the same interests, and so much in common even from the beginning, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started dating. Once that first date turned into more dates, and we become pretty serious pretty quick. I continued to work at Lake Logan. I don't remember how long we dated in the beginning. We dated to a certain point, and I can't remember if it was that entire summer or not. I don't know if you remember it. But then we broke up. We parted ways.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of remembrance of that.
Yeah. Well, Matt parted ways from me. That's what happened.
Go Matt.
Yeah, go Matt. He says he don't remember that, but
I don't.
When I've asked him about it before, but he did. He parted ways from me, and I was heartbroken. I was so sad. And I can't remember now if that was just a matter of, it was at least a few months. I can't remember how many months that we of course didn't see each other because Matt had broke up with me. And during that time, though, I will tell you something funny that I did to Matt. And he didn't know. He would have never dreamed it was me, I don't guess. Who did you think it was? Or you thought it was just a mix-up, or what did you think?
I didn't know what it was, but I would have never
He would have never dreamed it was me.
Because you didn't have that mischievous quality.
Well, I did. You just didn't. You just hadn't discovered it yet.
You still got it, do you?
I don't know, do you?
Well, I hope not.
So the plan was hatched there at Lake Logan in the boathouse on one of those days when there was nobody fishing, but we were, of course, I was commiserating about how much I missed Matt, and the people I worked with was mad at him for hurting my feelings, and I don't remember which one of us come up with it, but at that time, I don't remember the name of the radio station. Do you? You might remember it since Matt grew up there.
No.
No, I don't know. Just the local radio station. It had like here in Murphy, the radio station calls it party lines, where you can call in and sell stuff. But out there it was swap shop or something like that. Well, Matt was pretty well known in those parts for lots of different reasons. Maybe not all of them good. But he was known too for his truck. He had a really nice truck, if you liked that kind of truck. So what was it, Matt?
It was an old square body Chevrolet. It was an 83, I think, 4-wheel drive. Mm-hmm. Fairly nice truck. And big tires and all that. And it was
a lift kit.
Yeah, and I really liked it and enjoyed it.
Yeah. So if you were, in that area and you seen that truck, you knew it was Matt's. I mean, people become known by their vehicles if you're young.
They did then. When they didn't all look the same.
Yeah, they all looked the same. But anyway, so of course I knew a lot about it too because I'd been riding around in it, for all those months. Well, we decided that we would put Matt's truck for sale. It's
on the radio.
Still hilarious on the radio. So a boy that I worked with, we got him to do it because, of course, I couldn't sound like Matt. And so we wrote down all the stuff we wanted him to say, and he called in and told all this stuff about it, and then said that he was in need of money and that he needed to sell his truck really fast. And I can't remember what we said. It was some ridiculous cheap.
$500.
$500.
Yeah, it was, really cheap.
And then we said, at that time Matt worked at Lowe's, we said, he said, and I work at Lowe's, just call and ask for Matt.
Yeah. And when it happened, they had the office phones with all the lines. They all lit up simultaneously. And every call was for me, and to the point that the people up in the front of the store got mad.
Yeah,
and
I don't blame them.
They didn't know what was going on. They had all the phone lines tied up, and every phone call was for me. And I answered 2 or 3 of them. I said, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I'm not selling my truck.
And I think finally somebody that was on the phone had said that, they had heard it on the radio that it was for sale. And I immediately thought, somebody's doing this, but I never would have thought it was you at all. I mean, I never would have thought that. But I knew somebody was doing that, and the phones just kept going, kept ringing. And they finally come back there and really got mad at me.
Yeah, and you saw
them. And I said, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. And then Papa Tony got mad at you because he thought it was, somebody told him, he didn't hear it, and he thought it was serious.
Yeah, he thought
you were in trouble
on
or
drugs
something.
or something. I don't know.
It was mean.
That was a good one.
But it still makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But I was mad at Matt because he broke up with me. And that was my revenge. Oh, look at that. There's Winnis, a little chipmunk. He's listening to our story.
Yeah.
So that happened, and of course Matt didn't know, but we heard through the grapevine that everybody called him and that everybody's wanting to buy it. And then people started calling me that knew me out there and was like, "Tipper, there must be something wrong with Matt. I heard him on the radio and he's selling his truck." And then I had to just say, "Oh, I don't know. I've not talked to Matt. He broke up with me." Anyway, so I guess a few months after that or something. I can't remember the time frame of all that, but I think we were broke up for at least several months, at least 3 months maybe 4, 2, 3, 4, something like that. But I was still just heartbroken and wishing we'd get back together, even though I'd tried to sell his truck out from under him. But I was going somewhere one evening, and I can't remember where I was going, But I was going across Waynesville Mountain, and I met Matt, and it's in that truck. I met him. And I thought, I don't know why, just crazy, like I thought, well, I'm going to turn around and go after him. And I don't know if I would have thought I was going to follow him all the way to his house or what I thought I was going to do, but I was just going to turn around because that was the first time I'd seen him. And so I turned around, and the next little place I got to that I could turn around, and I started going back the other way. Well, when I did, Matt had had the same thought I did, and he had turned around because he recognized me. So then we passed again, just within, a few hundred yards. So then we both knew that we wanted to talk to each other, and I don't remember where we went, if we pulled off on the side of the road or what we did, but
I don't either.
But from then on, that day we got back together, and then that
here we are.
And here we are, yeah. Old, yeah. Here we are, old. Good times.
It was.
Well, it wasn't good times when you broke up with me, but it all worked out in the end. Right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So Matt, once we were pretty serious, of course, he come out here to meet Pap and Granny, and so he'd been out here, and of course I'd been out there. And then when we began to get serious enough to get married, and Matt asked me to marry him, and bought me a ring. Where did it come from? J.C. Penney, I think.
Sears.
Sears
had a had a jewelry department, a little small.
Yeah.
And that's of course that's all the money we had.
Yeah, we didn't have much money, but we decided we were going to get married. We decided that we wanted to live out here. Matt liked it out here because it was more. Of course, I liked it out here because it was my home, but Matt liked it because it was more rural. It was not as many people. It's not as populated as Haywood County. He may have regretted his decision over the years.
No.
A couple of times, maybe questioned it, but once we decided, that's what we decided.
Right.
So we moved back out here, got married pretty quickly. At first, though, when we first moved out here, we wasn't married, I don't guess, to begin with.
No, I wanted to find a job, find some work first, and it took a little while, but I finally did.
Yeah, and Matt done all kinds of odd jobs there in that first year and a half or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to school. I decided I was going to go back to school, so I went to college. And Pap and Granny was nice enough to let Matt live on the couch, so he slept on the couch. But it wasn't very long, and we got married.
Right.
We were married in August 27th of 1994?
93.
Or 93?
No.
94. I don't know. We're terrible. We can't even remember.
It don't matter.
Anyway, and then once we were married, we lived with Pap and Granny. Well, of course, we both were, by that time, I don't remember where you were working at, Matt, by then. Do you remember? Dorman's, maybe? Matt done all kinds of different things.
Yeah, I did heating and air work and well drilling, and
yeah.
I was working at the well drilling.
Okay, that means
because we had our honeymoon in the hotel next door.
Oh, that one, yeah.
To the well drilling place.
Yeah, for several different ones. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's what you did. And since we didn't, I was working too. I worked at the college where I was going to school, but we didn't have much money. And of course we didn't, you could rent. We looked at places to rent. They were expensive. And then Pap generously gave us an acre of land. He was going to give us an acre of land. And better than that, he had really a lot of experience in building houses. He said that he would help us build the house, of course, for free, no labor, and we would, just get a loan to pay for the building materials. Mm-hmm. So we started that pretty quick right after we got married, didn't we? Had to cut all the trees. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a little time went by in there before we was able to get started because of all the surveying and loans and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a few months went by, but then we got started on it, and it took a while. I mean, working outside of an outside job.
Right. Pap still had a full-time job. Matt had a full-time job.
And then trying to build a house in the evenings and on the weekends. Once we started the house, it took 12 months to get the house where we could move in it. Yeah. It took a full year.
Yeah.
Once we actually started construction on the house.
So I guess it did take a little bit longer, like I'm thinking. It was pretty quick because by the time like you said, we'd done all the paperwork and all the loans and the surveys, and then cut all the trees and the grading and all that. Right. That was probably a year because we were married 2 years when we had Corey and Katie. So when we moved in the house, 3 days. 3 days.
3 days.
3 days before they were born. So
barely made it.
Barely made it. But thanks to Pap and Granny, that's how we were able to. And our house is very modest, but it's a wonderful, well-built house. Right. And Matt learned a lot too with Pap building it.
Yeah, I learned I liked it so well that quit my job and started building houses. And that was really, really scary too.
Yeah.
Because I had a new house to pay for and
Twin girls.
2 brand new twin girls, and I quit my job to work
Yeah.
for myself, and that was very scary.
Yeah.
But it worked. I mean, we didn't get rich by any means, but I was able to spend a few years working for myself, be your own boss, and we got by.
Yeah.
But we didn't do much better than getting by.
Yeah.
But we got by.
Yeah. And those were good times, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was stressful having all that money out on the houses that we built, but luckily we sold them all and made that back and made a little extra money, and then we'd borrow money and buy a piece of land and start another one. And at that time, housing was really going.
Yeah. In one way, it's hard. All those talking about those times is like that was some other life, somebody else's life. It wasn't even us, was it? Were we those people? And then in another way, it seems like it was just yesterday. And like Matt's like, that was just yesterday that we both turned around on the road, and here we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
How many years have we been married? I have to ask Matt. You can tell I'm not one of those people that worry about anniversaries.
28.
28 years, yeah. 28 years. And it's just went by in a flash, hasn't it?
It has. Very, very fast.
Yeah. We've had a lot of people say that we seem like we genuinely really like each other and get along, and we do. And we're certainly no marriage experts, but to say what worked for us was in the beginning, of course, we were really in love. We loved each other. Even though I tried to sell Matt's truck and he broke up with me and all that, but once those were out of the way, we really genuinely loved each other, and we liked each other too. We respected each other.
And still do.
And still do, yeah. And I think going into it too made a difference for me and Matt was that we really firmly, both of us believed if we get married, that's it, forever. There's no point that one of us is gonna back out or get off or let each other down or whatever. We really took those vows serious, that we meant it. We were in for the long haul.
Right.
And somehow having that in the back of your mind, I think for us, it really helped us. Like remember, like even when we get mad at each other and get in fights or, there was rough spots, we would always go back to, but I promised, till death do us part, and that's what I'm going to do. I made that promise before God and before all our family and everything. I really promised that, and I signed the marriage license and had the witnesses and done all that, and I'm going to have to, even though I'm mad at him, I couldn't resort back to my old trick of trying to sell his truck though, because then at that point it was my truck too.
Yeah.
From then on it was ours. We owned everything together.
Pretty much all we had, so you couldn't sell it.
I couldn't sell it. But I think that that helped us. I don't know. And
that's how you got to look at it if you want it to work.
Yeah.
If you can't look at it that way, then maybe you might ought to keep looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just the way there's no other way to look at it in my mind.
Yeah. And I think, again, everybody has to do it their own way, but for me and Matt, I think it helped us too that we come at it like we, from the very beginning, even when we were dating probably, but especially once we were about to get married and got married, is that we looked at it like we both had our roles. And that didn't mean his role was better than mine or that mine was better than his, but that we fit together. I molded to his and he molded to mine. What am I trying to say? I set you off and you set me off. Like, what am I looking for, the word?
I don't really know.
Yeah. I don't know either. But anyway, that we both had our roles, and together then they made a whole. I done half of my part, and Matt done his, and then together it all fit together really nicely. I know there's a word for that. I know there's a word for that. You'll think of it and y'all can tell me. But I think that helped us too, that we were kind of on the same page about that. We were on the same page already, like we both worked, until I was pregnant with Corey and Katie. Of course, I worked until the time I couldn't work no more. I was put on complete bed rest. But we were kind of both on the same page that it was really important for me to be at home with them you know,
Right.
to not have to leave them. And we did without lots of things. We
Right.
eat lots of beans and cornbread.
Peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, wore the same clothes, didn't buy hardly anything.
But-
didn't get my hair cut unless I had to, those kind of things. But
all at the same time, our girls turned out, you couldn't ask for any better.
no, right.
And I think that's why.
Yeah, but that major decision of even like that, we both were on the same page of
Right,
that. It
right.
Like you didn't have to push me into it, or I
No.
didn't have to beg you to let me do it.
No.
So some of those major things we already had kind of worked out, like this is what I think about this, and this is what I think about that, even though there was no kids, and heaven forbid we never dreamed twins.
No,
So,
that was a shocker all its own.
yeah, that was a total shock.
That's
yeah.
a whole nother video.
Yeah, that's a whole nother video
Telling
about
that story.
about having twins and how we found out we was having twins and all that. But yeah, for us, there's certainly been times that we got mad at each other and rough spots. And I remember years ago, I mean, Corey and Katie was probably maybe in about third grade or something, and this was at church, and it didn't have anything to do with me and Matt. It was another couple that was having a hard time, and they were kind of talking about it openly. And one of the older ladies said, who had been married a long time, she said, "Well, my advice is that you got to just hang in there." And she said, "You know, looking back over my marriage, there's been times, there might even be a whole year or more, that you don't really like each other much, or you know, you're just thinking, is this what this is, or is this what I should do?" But she said, what I've found is if you just hang in there, it comes back around. It comes back to where it's supposed to be. So I remembered that, her saying that, because she was somebody that I had known my whole life and that I, you know, trusted and all that. And she wasn't advising me, she was advising somebody else. But when she said that, I really listened to her and thought about that and thought, that makes sense. And now at this point, all these years later, I can say that's true, that for us anyway, that if you just kind of hang in there and keep trying and keep pecking away at it,
Right.
that it'll, whatever your angst or frustration or friction between you will work itself out.
Mm-hmm.
And all those old songs, the one that comes to mind for me, of course, is Maggie. But all those about how they love, when you first are in love, it's that rush of just all those emotions and those feelings, and you're just on this high. But how that's wonderful. But then as time goes by, it does develop into, like some people would say, a fine wine. We're not drinkers, so we don't really use that. But it develops into something richer and deeper.
Right. Yeah, it does. I mean, the longer you're with somebody, the more in tune with each other you are.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, long before I'd ever met Matt, I was working at Cato's, was my after-school weekend job. And of course, me and the other girls that worked there, we were always, you know, gushing about whatever boy we liked at the time or who we thought was cute or whatever. And the manager of the store, she'd tell us, I remember her telling us one time, I mean, she would listen to us and she wasn't getting on to us or anything. She'd just laugh at us, but she's like, "Oh, girls, 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 girls." Instead of worrying about what somebody looks like, or worrying about what kind of car they drive, because of course, you know, you always liked somebody that had in our day, it was like that Mustang GTs or something. Instead of worrying about that, what you really need to worry about is who's going to rub your feet at the end of a long, tired day. Who's going to hold your hair out of your puke when you're puking. That's what she'd tell us. And she was right. Yeah.
That is right.
Yeah.
You can't see that at the time.
No.
You can't see past the rush you were talking about.
Yeah. But I think me and Matt both could say we've definitely been that for each other, to clean up the puke and hold the feet and all those things that.
I'm good at puke cleanup.
Yeah, Matt is good. I'm not so good, but I can do it. But Matt often says he could clean up a gut pile and eat a bologna sandwich at the same time.
I pretty much have done that.
I can't. I have a weaker stomach than that, but.
I got a stomach like an iron wedge.
Yeah, nothing bothers Matt at all. I can just start thinking about stuff though and get sick at my stomach, so.
That's kind of silly.
I know. I can't help it though. We hope you enjoyed hearing how we met, hearing a little bit about our marriage and why we think it's extra special. We do both think it's extra special. We do believe, though, everybody kind of has to find their own ways. And probably one thing that we didn't say, too, that we should have, we just kind of because we both agree. That's another thing about being married a long time. You realize you don't need to spell everything out and say it, but of course you don't know that. But is that we would say that we both have a faith in God, and that was another reason that those vows were so serious to us, and that we've tried to put Him at the forefront of our marriage and follow in His ways. Not that we don't fail at all points on a daily basis even, but we do feel that all our blessings definitely come from God, and that He's really blessed us with each other. You know, it's funny thinking about that blind date all those years ago. That was really a blessing. Now those people that set us up, they're no longer together. They were actually divorced before me and Matt were married, I guess, weren't they? Yeah, by then.
It would have been close, yeah.
It would have been. So before Matt and I were married, and we dated about 4 years, I guess. Yeah. So, but we do think that that's definitely, again, I guess that would be our points, is to put God in your marriage, and then also to make sure that you both really honor the vows, respect each other, love each other, like each other. And if you're in there for the long haul, know that a rough patch is going to get better. It's going to come back around, like the wise lady at my church said. Right. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this one, maybe our next little talk we can tell about the twins, what it was like to find out we were going to have twins.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. As always, we do hope you'll drop back by to help us celebrate Appalachia, whether it's a great marriage like mine and Matt's, some good cornbread and beans, growing a garden, being out in the beautiful landscape like these beautiful leaf, or whatever it is.